My name is Indigo Klein. I am 26 years old. I was standing in the dim light of my parents' attic in our old row house in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, dust motes swirling around me like forgotten secrets, when I found the envelope that changed everything. It was tucked behind a stack of yellowed photo albums, the kind my mom always said held the good times, before things got complicated with complicated, meaning me the younger daughter she never quite wanted. The envelope was thick sealed with tape that had gone brittle over time, and when I peeled it open, papers spilled out bank statements, a property deed, and what looked like a jewelry receipt for something extravagant. My heart dropped as I scanned the deed. Our family home, the one my dad had inherited from his parents and worked two jobs to maintain through the recession, was now listed solely in my mom's name. But the signature next to my dad's looked off too perfect, dated during a week he'd been away on a business trip last year. And the bank transfers, thousands upon thousands, siphoned out over months, wired to accounts I didn't recognize, all while my mom had been complaining about money being tight and guilting me into sending extra from my paycheck. I sat there on the creaky floorboards, the chill from the unheated space seeping into my bones, feeling like the world had tilted. This wasn't just some mix-up. It was deliberate cold, like everything my mom did when she thought no one was watching. She'd always had this way of making me feel like I was the problem, the one who didn't measure up to my older sister, but this was theft betrayal wrapped in legal jargon. Have any of you ever stumbled on something like that from your own mom, proof that she saw your family not as a bond, but as something to exploit? I'd love to hear if you've been through it. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. It might make me feel less alone in this mess. Growing up in Philly, our neighborhood in Fishtown was the kind where everyone knew your business. But inside our brick row house, the real drama stayed hidden. My mom had always been the center of it, all this force of nature with sharp words and even sharper expectations. From as far back as I can remember, she treated my sister like the golden child, the one who got the new clothes, the praise for straight A's, the extra slice of cake at birthdays. Me, I was the afterthought, the surprise baby who came along when my parents were already struggling. "You were the one who made things hard?" she'd say, offhandedly, like it was a fact, not a dagger. My dad tried to balance it, working long hours as a mechanic to keep the roof over our heads, but he was always too tired to push back against her. He'd just ruffle my hair and whisper, "Hang in there, kiddo," before collapsing on the couch. One memory sticks out from when I was about 10. It was a humid summer evening, the kind where the air conditioner hummed nonstop, but never quite cooled the place down. My sister had just won some school award for debate team, and my mom threw this impromptu celebration, balloons, takeout from the corner cheesesteak spot, even a little cake from the bakery down the block. I was excited, thinking maybe I'd get to share in it, since I'd helped my sister practice her speeches. But when I reached for a plate, my mom swatted my hand away. "That's for your sister. She earned it. You can have what's left if there's any." Her tone was casual, but her eyes had that gleam, like she enjoyed reminding me of my place. My dad saw it, opened his mouth to say something, then just sighed and handed me a plain sandwich from the fridge instead. That night, I cried myself to sleep in my tiny bedroom, the sounds of laughter from downstairs echoing up the stairs. It wasn't the food. It was the message: you're not worth celebrating. As I got older, the favoritism only dug deeper. By high school, my sister was off to college on a partial scholarship, and my mom bragged about her to everyone at the neighborhood block parties. Me, I was expected to pick up the slack after-school job at the local coffee shop to help with bills, even though my grades suffered from the exhaustion. "Your sister's the smart one. You need to contribute in other ways," my mom would say, her voice laced with that familiar disdain. It felt like she resented me for existing, for not being another version of my sister who fit her perfect mold. My dad tried to intervene once, suggesting I deserved a break, but my mom shut him down fast. "Don't coddle her, she'll never learn." And just like that, he backed off, leaving me to fend for myself. I pushed through through graduating and landing a job as a customer success rep at a small tech startup in Center City. It wasn't glamorous, lots of emails, client calls, troubleshooting software glitches, but it paid enough for me to move into a cramped apartment in Old City away from the constant tension at home. Still, my mom kept her hooks in. Every month, she'd call with some emergency. The car needed repairs, the roof was leaking, and I'd wire over a few $100 dipping into my savings. Family helps family, she'd say, but it was always one way. My sister, meanwhile, was living rent-free in an apartment my mom helped her get, claiming it was an investment in her future. When I'd mentioned feeling stretched thin, my mom would scoff. "Stop being selfish. Your sister's building something real. What are you doing?" Flipping through those papers in the attic that day, it all clicked into a horrifying pattern. The bank statements showed withdrawals starting about 18 months ago, first small, then bolder, totaling over $200,000. Not to family accounts, but to some guy's name, Orion Norton. Who the hell was that? And the jewelry receipt, $15,000 for a bracelet dated right around when my mom had claimed she was visiting her sister for a weekend. My aunt, sure, but this screamed something else. My hands shook as I stuffed everything into my bag. I needed to get out, but the betrayal burned like acid. This wasn't just about money. It was my mom actively dismantling our family, and from the looks of it, she'd been planning it while smiling to my face. I drove back to my apartment that evening, the Philly traffic a blur of horns and headlights, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? And why? Deep down, I knew my mom had always seen me as the lesser one, the burden, but now it felt like she was erasing us all for whatever upgrade she thought she deserved. That night, I couldn't sleep, staring at the ceiling fan spinning endlessly. The next morning, I called in sick to work, first time ever, and headed to a coffee shop near Rittenhouse Square to sort through the docs. Spreading them on the table, hidden behind my laptop, I Googled Orion Norton. Boom, a 35-year-old wellness coach with a slick website all about living your authentic life. Photos of him on beaches, motivational quotes, the works. Younger than my dad by over a decade. My stomach twisted. This was her lover, had to be. But it got worse. Cross-referencing the transfers, some went to hotels in the city, fancy dinners, even a trip to some resort. All while my dad was grinding at the garage, his hands calloused from years of labor. And me, I'd been sending money thinking it was for the house for them. Fury built, but so did hurt. Why did she hate me enough to risk everything I remembered, a recent family gathering? Not a dinner, but a backyard cookout for my sister's promotion. My mom had pulled me aside, her grip tight on my arm. "Don't embarrass us today. Let your sister shine." Like I was a liability. Now seeing this, it felt like she'd been plotting her escape, using us as stepping stones. I needed advice, someone outside the family bubble. That's when I texted my old friend Leonard, who'd been my rock since college. We met at a pub in Northern Liberties that afternoon, the place dim with wooden booths and the hum of after-work chatter. Leonard, a consultant downtown, listened as I laid it all out, his face darkening with each detail. "Indy, this is serious forgery embezzlement. You need a pro." He referred me to Joel Newman, an attorney he knew who specialized in family fraud cases. "Don't confront her yet. Gather more first." Over the next few days, I dug quietly. Using my work laptop perks of tech access, I traced more transactions. Turns out my mom had been using a joint account my dad set up years ago, one I had view access to from helping with bills. More outflows, airline tickets to Hawaii of all places. 2 seats business class leaving in a week. One for June Klein, the other for Orion Norton. My breath caught. She was planning a getaway, probably to think things through, like she always said when avoiding responsibility, but the deed forgery. That was the killer, dated when my dad was out of town fixing trucks in Jersey. She'd faked his signature to claim the house worth about $800,000 in this market. The stress hit hard. At work, I botched a client call, mixing up their account details because my mind was elsewhere. My boss pulled me aside, concerned. "Everything okay at home?" I nodded, but inside I was crumbling. That evening, back in my apartment, I broke down, sobbing on the floor amid takeout containers. Why did my mom despise me so much? Was it because I looked like my dad or because I didn't kiss up like my sister? She'd always made snide comments about my job, just a phone jockey, while praising my sister's marketing gig as real career stuff. Now this fraud felt like the ultimate rejection, like she was willing to bankrupt us to start fresh without the dead weight. I met with Joel the next day in his office near City Hall, the room stacked with files and smelling of stale coffee. He reviewed the papers, his brow furrowing. This is felony territory. Forgery could mean prison time, but we need proof it's fake. He suggested a handwriting expert and freezing assets quietly. Your mom's the sole name now, ironically. We can use that to protect it via a trust. Leonard joined, offering to front some costs since he knew I was tapped out from helping my family. As the days ticked by, the pressure mounted. My mom called twice, casual as ever, asking for a little loan for home repairs. I mumbled excuses, my voice tight, but she pushed. Don't be stingy, Indigo. After all I've done raising you. Her words stung, that conditional love she'd wielded like a weapon my whole life. I hung up, heart pounding, knowing the trip was approaching. Then, the bombshell. Scrolling social media late one night, I saw her post a beach selfie with Orion caption, embracing new horizons. Public bold, like she didn't care who saw. Comments from her friends, our family friends, cheering her on. No mention of my dad or me. It was humiliation on display. That pushed me over. I confided in my dad the next morning, showing him the evidence at his garage during his lunch break. He aged 10 years in minutes, slumping against a workbench. I suspected something, but not this. He admitted my mom had been distant cold, but he'd chalked it up to midlife stuff. Turns out she'd been guilting him too, saying the house was her security. But the favoritism he knew had tried to shield me, but my mom ruled the roost. She's always preferred your sister. Thought you were too independent, too much like me. With his blessing, we moved forward. Joel set up an emergency transfer the house to a trust under Leonard's name temporarily to block her. It was legal, using her own forgery against her. As the paperwork processed, I felt a mix of relief and dread. The first big escalation came that weekend. My aunt called my mom's sister, ranting about how I was interfering in family matters. Apparently, my mom had confided in her, painting me as the jealous one trying to sabotage her happiness. Your mom's deserved better for years. Stop being so selfish. It was clear she'd been in on it, advising on the drains. The call from my aunt left me reeling, her words echoing like a slap I couldn't shake off. She ended it with a threat. If you keep digging, you'll regret it. Your mom won't forget this. I hung up my phone, slipping from my sweaty palm onto the kitchen counter. It was clear now, my mom wasn't acting alone. She'd looped in her sister, probably venting about how I was the ungrateful one holding her back from living her best life. That deep-seated dislike she'd always harbored for me, it wasn't just passive anymore. It was fueling this whole scheme. Growing up, she'd make these cutting remarks about how I complicated her plans, how my birth derailed her dreams of traveling or advancing her career as a real estate agent. Now it seemed like she was cashing in literally to make up for it. But the pressure didn't stop there. 2 days later, my sister texted me out of the blue, something she rarely did unless she needed a favor. Hey, Mom says you're causing drama. What's going on? Call me. I ignored it, at first focusing on work where I could bury myself in client emails and demos. But by evening, she called, her voice dripping with that superior tone my mom had nurtured in her. Indigo, seriously, Mom told me you're accusing her of stuff with the house. That's crazy, she's just trying to secure our future. You always make everything about you. I bit back a retort, but the hurt flared. Our future. It was always hers, and my mom's shared vision with me on the outside looking in. I mumbled something about misunderstandings and hung up, but inside it felt like another layer of isolation. My mom had turned my own sister against me, using her as a proxy to pile on the guilt. The next morning, things escalated in a way I hadn't anticipated. I was at the office mid-presentation to a potential client over Zoom when my phone buzzed incessantly, my mom. I silenced it, but after the call, I checked 5 missed calls and a voicemail. Her voice was sharp-laced with that familiar contempt. Indigo, I know you've been snooping. Your aunt told me you called her asking questions. If you think you can ruin my plans, think again. I've sacrificed enough for this family for your sister who actually appreciates it. Stay out of it or you'll see what happens when you cross me. The threat hung there vague, but ominous. Sacrificed. She'd been the one always positioning herself as the martyr while dismissing my efforts. It was her classic move victim playing to deflect, making me the villain for standing up. I forwarded the voicemail to Joel, who advised documenting everything. This shows intent. It'll help in court if needed. But the stress was wearing me down. That afternoon, I had a panic attack in the office bathroom, hyperventilating over the sink, as flashes of childhood memories hit my mom ignoring my school plays to attend my sister's or forgetting my birthday while throwing lavish parties for hers. Why did she hate me so much? Was it because I challenged her, didn't fawn like my sister Joel suggested therapy, but I couldn't afford it yet, not with the legal fees looming? Instead, I confided in Leonard over drinks that night at a bar in Fishtown, the neon signs flickering outside the window. She's always seen you as the threat, he said, the one who might expose her control. It made sense. My independence irked her, while my sister's reliance fed her ego. As the week wore on, the paperwork for the trust finalized. Joel called to confirm the house was now protected under a temporary entity tied to Leonard's investment firm, using the forged deeds loophole against her. She can't sell or leverage it without us knowing. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. My dad started getting calls from my mom berating him for letting me cause trouble. He showed up at my apartment one evening looking haggard, grease stains still on his shirt from the garage. She's furious, Indy, says if we don't back off she'll make sure I lose everything, claims she has proof I agreed to the transfers. It was gaslighting at its finest, my mom twisting facts to maintain power. But seeing my dad's defeated posture ignited something in me. He'd always been the buffer taking her barbs to protect me, and now she was dragging him down too. The deeper escalation hit that Friday. I was wrapping up work early, planning a quiet weekend to recharge, when my boss emailed, "Client from earlier complained. Said you seem distracted. Let's chat Monday." My heart sank. The family drama was bleeding into my job, threatening the stability I'd built. That night, scrolling mindlessly, I saw another post from my mom, not public this time, but on a family group chat she'd accidentally included me in. A photo of her and Orion at a swanky dinner downtown, caption, "Finally feeling alive, deserve this after years of settling." Settling with my dad, who adored her, and the comments, my sister heart reacting, my aunt chiming in with, "You go, girl." It was like they were celebrating the dismantling of our family. I screenshot it, adding to the evidence file Joel was building. But the real gut punch came the next day. My mom showed up at my apartment unannounced, banging on the door like she owned the place. I peered through the peephole, seeing her perfectly coiffed hair and that designer bag probably bought with the siphoned money. "Open up, Indigo. We need to talk." Her voice was commanding, the ringleader tone she used to orchestrate family chaos. I cracked the door chain on my pulse racing. "What do you want?" She pushed against it, eyes narrowing with that deep contempt I'd known forever. "You've been meddling in my business. The house, the accounts, stop it now. Your sister's future depends on this stability." Her future? Not mine, not my dad's. It was always about favoring her, seeing me as the obstacle. She didn't yell at first. It was that false kindness she sometimes deployed, like when I was a kid, and she'd promise, "Things will get better," only to snatch it away. "Come on, honey, let's sort this out. I know you're upset, but life's too short for grudges." But when I didn't budge, mentioning the forgery, her mask slipped. "You ungrateful little brat, after everything you accuse me. You're just jealous of your sister, always have been. I should have never had you." The words landed like punches, confirming the hatred she'd subtly shown all my life, dismissing my achievements, using me as a scapegoat. She stormed off, but not before hissing, "You'll pay for this." The encounter left me shaken, doubting myself. Was I overreacting? But no, the evidence was ironclad. That evening, my sister called again, echoing my mom's lines. "Mom says you're trying to take the house. How could you do that to us?" Us, her, and my mom, the team against me. It hurt, but it also clarified my mom had groomed her to side against me, extending her control. Leonard came over bringing pizza, and we talked it out. This is her escalating because she's scared. The trip's tomorrow. She's probably planning to bolt. Sure enough, the next morning, my dad texted, "Your mom's leaving for a break. Hawaii, she says, wants me to watch the house." It was happening just like the tickets showed. But with the trust in place, she couldn't use the property as collateral anymore. As her flight time approached, Joel filed the initial fraud report quietly, with the authorities freezing the remaining accounts. The pressure built inside me like a storm. Work suffered another hit when I missed a deadline, my mind foggy from sleepless nights. My health took a toll. 2 headaches, lost appetite, even a breakup with a guy I'd been seeing casually. "You seem distant," he said. But how could I explain my mom's betrayal without sounding dramatic? Then the shocking discovery that pushed me to my turning point. While monitoring the accounts one last time, I found a new transfer attempt, blocked, thank God, but traced to my sister's name. My mom had tried to funnel more money to her, probably as a gift for loyalty. It was the final straw. Not only was she stealing from my dad and me, but entrenching the favoritism in fraud. I confronted my sister over the phone that afternoon, voice steady despite the rage. "Did you know about the money, the forgery?" She hesitated, then defended. "Mom said it was for my down payment, said you wouldn't understand." That admission shattered something. My mom had made her complicit, using her as a tool in the injustice. I decided then I wouldn't let this continue. No more sending money, no more silence. With Joel's guidance, I prepared for her return, gathering affidavits from my dad and even the housekeeper who'd seen suspicious visitors at the house. It was a mini cliffhanger in my mind. She'd land soon, thinking she had it all, only to face the locks changed literally and figuratively. But as I sat in my apartment that night, the weight of it all pressed down, wondering if confronting her would finally break the cycle or just deepen the wounds. The days blurred while my mom was away in Hawaii, each one a mix of anxious waiting and frantic preparation. I'd taken a personal day from work to meet with Joel and finalize the fraud filings, the office in his building overlooking the bustling streets near Independence Hall. The city noise outside, tourists snapping photos, vendors hawking pretzels, felt worlds away from the storm brewing in my life. Joel laid out the plan. Upon her return, we'd serve notice through the authorities, using the frozen accounts and trust as leverage. "She's walking into a trap she set herself," he said, his tone matter of fact. My dad joined us, signing affidavits about the forgery, his hands steady despite the tremor in his voice. "I should have seen it sooner, Indy, but she's always been good at making me doubt myself." It was the first time he'd admitted how her emotional neglect had worn him down, too, always sidelining him in favor of my sister or her own whims. Back home, I couldn't shake the isolation. My sister kept texting, escalating her attacks. "Mom's just taking a break, you're overreacting and hurting everyone." Everyone meaning them, of course. It was my mom's influence turning her into an echo of that conditional love where approval hinged on blind loyalty. Leonard stopped by with coffee, sensing my unraveling. "You're not alone in this," he reminded me, but the health toll was real. A doctor's visit confirmed stress-induced migraines, prescribing rest I couldn't afford. At night, I'd replay her voicemail, that venomous tone underscoring her resentment. I was the child who didn't fit, the one she blamed for her unfulfilled life. Why else would she forge documents, drain accounts, all to fund a fling with Orion while dismissing my existence? The turning point solidified when the housekeeper Paula called me out of the blue. She'd been with my parents for years, a quiet woman in her 40s who'd witnessed too much. I couldn't stay silent anymore, she said over the phone, her voice shaky. Turns out she'd seen Orion at the house multiple times during my dad's shifts, lounging in the living room, even using the guest bedroom. Your mom threatened me, said she'd ruin my reputation if I talked. But after seeing her posts from Hawaii, celebrating like nothing's wrong, you deserve to know. It was another layer of complicity, but unlike Denise in the original tale, Paula offered proof timestamps from the home security app she'd accessed. I added it to the file, feeling a grim resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was exposing the web my mom had spun using silence and fear to maintain control. As her return flight landed, tracked via an app, Leonard suggested the confrontation loomed like a gathering storm over the Schuylkill River. My mom arrived at the house that evening, tanned and smug, Orion in tow, his polished look straight out of his wellness ads, all fake charm and greedy eyes scanning the row house like it was already his. My dad had changed the locks earlier, per Joel's advice, and installed a new security system. I was there, waiting with him, parked down the block in his truck, the air thick with tension. We watched as she fumbled with her key, the LED flashing red. "What the hell?" she muttered loud enough to carry in the quiet neighborhood. Orion shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his designer shirt. "Babe, maybe the battery died." But she pounded on the door, her voice rising. "Open up! I know you're in there. Stop this nonsense." That's when my dad stepped out, me following close behind. The porch light flickered on, casting harsh shadows across her face. She whirled, eyes narrowing at me, first that deep, simmering dislike flashing like always. "You," she spat, pointing a manicured finger. "This is your doing, isn't it? Always the troublemaker, jealous because your sister and I have real lives." Her words were the opening salvo, direct and humiliating, initiating the conflict as she always did. Orion hung back, but my sister, summoned by a frantic text I later learned, pulled up moments later, rushing to her side. "Mom, what's going on, Indigo? How could you lock her out?" It was the full alliance, my mom as ringleader insulting me outright, my sister echoing the hate she'd been taught, even my aunt texting threats from afar. I stood firm, pulling out the folder of evidence, prints of statements, the forged deed, Paula's affidavit. "This ends now, Mom. You've been stealing over $200,000 funneled to him." I nodded at Orion, who paled. "Forging Dad's signature on the deed while he was away. It's all here." Her face twisted, not with guilt, but rage. "How dare you accuse me? I've given everything to this family, raised you despite how difficult you were. Your sister's the one who matters. You're just excess." The insult cut deep. Her contempt laid bare, but it fueled me. My dad spoke up, then, voice steady. "June, it's over. The house is in a trust now. Your forgery backfired. The accounts are frozen." Chaos erupted. My mom lunged for the folder, but I held it back. "You ungrateful bitch!" She hissed, her true colors showing, no more false kindness, just raw hatred for the daughter who dared expose her. Orion bolted to his car, muttering about being lied to, abandoning her like the opportunist he was. My sister wavered, seeing the papers, but sided with Mom initially. "This can't be real, you're twisting it." But as police arrived, called by Joel with the fraud report, reality hit. Officers reviewed the docs, cuffing my mom for forgery and embezzlement. "You have the right to remain silent," one said as she screamed denials. "Indigo did this. She's always hated me." Her pleas fell flat, the neighborhood watching from windows. The consequences unfolded swiftly, cold and irreversible, like a legal hammer dropping. My mom's bail was denied due to flight risk. She faced charges carrying 3 to 5 years in Pennsylvania. The court ordered full restitution, every penny repaid, forcing her to liquidate assets she'd hidden. Orion investigated as an accomplice. He lost his coaching business when clients fled after the scandal hit local news. My sister, complicit in some transfers, got probation and community service, her marketing job revoking her license temporarily for ethics violations. She lost her apartment reputation tarnished, finally seeing mom's manipulation. My aunt faced aiding charges, her marriage crumbling when her husband learned of her role. They lost everything: comfort, status, the facade of a perfect family. My mom from jail tried guilting letters. After all I sacrificed. But it was too late. Her empire of control collapsed. In the aftermath, healing began slowly, like spring thawing Philly's winter streets. I set firm boundaries: no contact with mom, limited with my sister until she apologized genuinely. Therapy helped, sessions in a quiet office near Fairmount Park, unpacking years of feeling less than. Your mom's dislike wasn't about you, the therapist said. It was her issues projected. Work improved. I got a promotion to senior rep, the stability, letting me save for a better apartment. My dad and I grew closer. He sold the house for $750,000, splitting proceeds, fairly using his share to retire early and travel. We started weekly lunches at Reading Terminal Market, bonding over hoagies and stories he'd never shared. Leonard became more than a friend. Our casual hangouts turned romantic, a healthy relationship where I felt valued. I built a chosen family: two friends from work, Paula, who stayed on as a confidant. Life felt lighter, no more walking on eggshells. I learned family isn't blood, it's who chooses you back. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. And love, it shouldn't come with conditions or contempt. I'll never let my mom or that side hurt or use me again. What about you? Have you ever had to cut ties with a toxic mom like this? Tell me in the comments. What would you have done in my shoes?